Hello and good morning, travelers. Today I'm gonna just show you a real quick TLDR for the patch 1.0 notes for last epoch. For those of you that have missed my stream yesterday, I did a 3+ hours overview, or basically commentary, live commentary of the patch, and the patch overall looks very awesome. However, obviously not everybody's gonna have time to rewatch that live stream. 3+ hours is a lot of time, so let me just do a TLDR here for you guys. First of all, of course, if you have been following my channel or last epoch in general in the last couple of weeks, then you will know what the Falconer is, you will know what the Warlock is, right? You will know what Circle of Fortune is, you will know what Merchant's Guild is, you will know what those factions do, the Solar Self-Found, more Magic Find faction and the Trade faction, and what the new masteries also entail when it comes to skills and playstyles that they enable. So I'm not gonna talk about that too much here. When it comes to new features, right, we're gonna have cycles, full offline mode, and resonances. Resonances is a system that allows you to trade, or rather not to trade, but rather to gift items to other players that you have been played with in the past, but then you found an item while you weren't playing with them together, and then with a resonance you can still allow yourself to trade that item to that person. Or if you have found an item earlier and then you play with another person later, then you can, after playing with that person for a extended period of time, drop a resonance and then trade, or rather gift them the item. So that's a pretty cool system for people that want to play group count, or I don't know, say you have a couple of friends that you're playing with, and on one day you can only play on your own and they don't have time, but you find an item that's perfect for their build, right? So that's a really cool system in my opinion. It might be maybe able to abused in some way or form, but as long as the drop chances for these resonances aren't too as long as they aren't too easy to drop, it should be totally fine. Cycles are just the last epoch name for seasons, right, or leagues. This is a Path of Exile style season/league starting with 1.0 tomorrow on Wednesday, and the only thing that's going to happen here for last epoch for 1.0 is a economy reset and a ladder reset, and that's it. There is no new content with the cycle. So if you want to just keep on playing your old characters in the legacy mode, you can just enjoy all the new content just with the old characters in the same way. Full offline mode, finally it has arrived. You can via Steam basically set the game to launch in full offline mode, and then you can play on your lone island without any internet connection forever, right? And that's really cool. No real other online ARPG does offer you a full proper offline mode. Wolcen did that in a way. The Wolcen offline mode was also a bit scuffed in some ways, though, so not saving characters properly and so on. And well, the last epoch offline mode has been in place until patch 0.9. It got removed in 0.9 and now it's reintroduced, but I have full faith in them having this work properly and respecting your time and not deleting characters randomly. So this should be very nice and very fun to play with, for those of you that don't always online kind of stuff. Visual upgrades: the game will look a lot better in 1.0. The game has consistently improved the graphics, but there have been still some issues in 0.9 in my opinion, and this 1.0 upgrade seems to pretty much address almost all of them, and it looks absolutely amazing now with the scene variant system having let's show this. Let's look at this real quick. Maybe look at this, right? You have changing fogs, daytimes, environments, even changing seasons mostly, almost even, and then the lighting system is really cool as well. This looks way better than before. It's a big improvement. So when it comes to visuals, especially, patch 1.0 is a huge improvement over previous patches. That's for sure. Let's talk about system changes, rebalance, and so on. When it comes to the rebalancing they have done for the content, the enemy content that you're clearing, say Monolith and Companion and so on, I think they've done a really good job with 1.0 as well. For example, in general, making levels matter more. So now enemies have up to 5% more HP and damage at level 80 compared to before, and up to 25% HP and more damage at level 100 compared to before. This will be most noticeable in monoliths and then empowered monoliths, where before modifiers were way too impactful, and corruption scaling and level scaling didn't matter enough. And now that is gonna be addressed, at least. Whether or not that's gonna be like enough to feel properly impactful or not, we'll see. But I think it will definitely be felt, and it will be impactful. And if you also like look at the new modifiers, they look a lot more tame than before. Why the fuck does it not load? There we go. So you have like these numbers here, which look a lot more reasonable now than like the 100% increased damage that you had before on some enemies, or like marked for death for like 10 echoes and stuff like that. So this is a lot more reasonable than before. The only modifiers that I don't like that much, and I feel like are almost unplayable still, are slow chance and chill chance, because slow and chill are pretty like hefty debuffs in this game, and there's very few ways to like resist against that. Yes, you can like cleanse them, but I mean, if you get like hit by one enemy, you cleanse the debuff, and you get hit by another enemy again, and it can be like any trash mob, right? This is gonna like affect all mobs in the entire monolith, like entire echo that you're running. Like those still feel bad in my opinion, but all the others are like totally fine now in my opinion, and like depending on your build, of course, you might still like want to run some of them over others, but none of them feel like you literally die if you pick them, right? Like before, you had like some modifiers that were like totally easy and fine to do and did literally nothing, and others, if you picked them, you basically had a 50% chance to die instantly. So now that's no longer the case, and also the corruption scaling being way better than before. Before, for example, if you had like around 1000 corruption, enemies would have like around 450 to 500 more damage and health, and if you had like around 300 corruption, enemies would have like around 150 to, it was like, I mean, it was not quite like that, but it was like roughly one corruption, or like 100 corruption giving you like 50% more HP and damage on enemies, and now 100 is going to give you 60% more, and then 200 is going to give you like 170% more, 300 is going to be like 281, 500 is going to be 505, so it scales a bit steeper than before, and also you start with like 10% more at 100 compared to before. And that is a good thing, because like comparatively to modifiers, corruption will matter way more now, which is great also for example, content creators, or like for people asking how much corruption can this build do, and then you can give them a proper corruption number, and that corruption number will actually also mean something, right? Because in the past, if you said like you can do like 500 corruption or 300 corruption or 1000 corruption, it was always like, okay, yeah, but like with which modifiers, right? Because saying like you can do XYZ boss at like 500 corruption, you didn't know if that was actually like a good build or not, because you could have like ran that boss with like 5 different like 100% increased damage modifiers basically, or you could like run the same boss with like basically no modifiers at all, or like modifiers that didn't matter at all. So now corruption actually means something, and that is a great change. It is a great change for new people when it comes to being able to like gauge builds properly, and it's like great for content creators when it comes to like presenting builds properly without like going too much into like false advertisement basically. So this is like a really great change, and I love this, and I've been asking for this since like the last 3 years, and apparently lots of the playtesters, like the community testers that were like part of testing 1.0, also agreed with this. It was well, if you play this game a lot, it was a rather obvious thing that they should have changed, and they have done it. So we're all very happy about that, honestly. I mean, I am for sure. This is a great change. Looking forward to playing Monolith with like non-toxic modifiers and actual like, you know, corruption that matters. Mob density was a topic as well that has come up very like a lot, especially lately, since like the game has gotten a bit power crept and like builds have gotten stronger and so on. But the density of some maps didn't like properly keep up, and mob density has been increased, especially like on the older maps, and which have also been reworked, of course, to like look better. And also the earlier monoliths now have like better mob density. Arena is still like lower density, but I mean in the arena itself that's fine. The arena echoes, however, in the monolith also probably are a bit low average. So for example, Blizzard IRL has said that if you're playing Circle of Fortune and there are like some lenses that you can use to like block certain maps, you probably, if you want to like go for most efficient like XP and loot per minute, you probably want to like, you know, block arena echoes to like not spawn, and stuff like that, because you don't really want to do arena echoes because they still don't feel as great as they could, at least like compared to other monolith echoes. But across the board, like monolith echo density has been increased, especially for the lower maps. For the higher maps, it's probably going to be like round about the same, but most of those also felt okay, in my opinion at least. Whether or not the game would benefit from like additional maybe like density modifiers for empowered monolith, that is something that we can still discuss, in my opinion. I can see like additional like optional density modifiers being a good thing for the game in the future. That will not be the case here at 1.0, but it is something that maybe EHG is like worth like exploring right now as well. We'll see. When it comes to the rewards for the echoes, those have also been increased in the way that like it is a bit more worth to like kill mobs and to like get loot, like to scale your loot with the added stability. Whether or not that's gonna like actually change the gameplay all too much in the echoes, I'm a little bit doubtful about that. So like when it comes to echo gameplay, usually you were mostly only like rushing to the objective, maybe like killing a mage if you find him on the way, and otherwise maybe like killing some bigger packs on the way for like some XP if you had like some good like AoE clear ability. And now you have a bit more incentive to like kill stuff on the way there. And maybe if you like also choose some certain like prophecies in Circle of Fortune, you have additional like motivation to kill certain like mob packs because they, you know, correspond to a certain prophecy that you have to complete to like get additional loot. But otherwise, I don't see this like changing in a big way, but it's at least like a step in the right direction. So they are trying to make the gameplay feel a bit more not about just going to the arrow, and that's a good thing. Full controller support is now in the game. I don't play ARPGs with a controller myself, so let me know if you like the new full controller support on 1.0 or not. I'm looking forward to your feedback on that. Character creation has been like beautified, basically. The game in general is gonna like look a lot better, really cool. We have like new mechanics. We have like the parry mechanic, which is basically like a dodge, but you still get like, you don't take any damage, but you still take the hit. So it still counts as a hit for like other like mechanics, and you still get the dot applied or like the ailments applied by that hit as well. So this is basically dodge for example, retaliation builds, or like dodge for like anything that wants to get hit and never wants to dodge. That's not retaliation. Also, you can get parry as a suffix, like parry chance as a suffix on a weapon, which is a slot where you couldn't get like dodge before anyway. So it's maybe like on one hand it's like another layer on top that you can use, and it's also like on the other hand a layer that you can use instead of dodge on, for example, retaliation builds. So it's an interesting mechanic. I like that they introduced this. It is currently a very like rare mechanic still, like there isn't much parry in the game yet, but maybe with like, for example, a future Forge Guard rework, parry could be like part of that class, who knows. Skill changes and passive changes, now this is where I feel like they are doing some stuff, and they are doing a lot of like bug fixing here and there as well. And they are like nerfing some of the OP stuff, but like the nerfs that they are doing to the OP stuff, it's I just like quote Parry on this honestly, because he said like, well, if you take off like 25% damage of something that's like basically infinite damage before, it's still gonna have like a lot of damage, right? So most of these nerfs aren't gonna be like really meta changing for the most part. Like the meta doesn't change really with this patch that much. Maybe there's gonna be like some things that are like a little bit worse, a little bit better now, but for the most part the meta didn't really change all too much, because like mechanically also some skills just are better for certain things at the game than others, and that didn't really change all too much. And I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily change all too much either. But anyway, if you are, for example, like playing Shadow Daggers and you're seeing like, oh my god, I lost like 24.5% of my total damage, right? Shadow Daggers did like a lot of damage before for like the investment that you needed to do into them. So I'm pretty sure like Shadow Daggers is still going to be like fine. Yes, it's going to be like a bit less damage than before, but it's still going to be like a completely like fine A or S tier build in my opinion. It's like still really, really strong. And the same goes for like some of the like stuff like Summon Wraith builds or like Assembled Abomination builds and so on that were like ridiculously strong as well. And also the same goes, for example, for Plasma Orb Brewmaster, which actually got buffed and not even nerfed, or like Hydrohedron Brewmaster, which has like 25% also less damage now. But it was also like by far the most ridiculous like invocation before, so 25% damage off that is still, I would say, very, 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 very strong. So that's like totally fine. What I'm a little bit disappointed with are some of the passive changes. Like if you look at the passive skill tree changes here, at least coming from Grim Dawn and comparing this to like Grim Dawn like balance changes, there aren't really like that many changes. There's some like nerfs to low life parameters here. There's some minor nerfs to Runemaster here. There is a bigger bug fix nerf to Runemaster because like some of the penetration nodes in Runemaster I think gave you like 7 times the value than they should. So they bug fixed that, so you'll have like 7 times less penetration now. Basically like resistance penetration, right? So that is a probably noticeable nerf for Runemasters when it comes to damage. For defense, also all mages got nerfed because the Frost Wall Flame Ward interaction has a cooldown now. Right, if you look at the skill tree in Mage, there was the change that now Frost Wall, if you take the node that procs Flame Ward off Frost Wall, then Frost Wall will have a 12-second cooldown, which will also be shared with Flame Ward, so you don't have like any more like permanent Flame Ward by like just walking through Frost Walls. And I mean, Flame Ward is a ridiculously defensive skill. If you compare it to like Arcanist Mirror and Grim Dawn, for example. Maybe not quite as strong, but still like having permanent uptime on that skill, which had like 58% damage reduction, something like that, like if you do the math correctly, and then like tons of ward gain on top. It was absolutely ridiculous. So this was a much needed nerf, and I'm happy that they did it at least, because otherwise they seem sometimes a little bit too hesitant with like nerfing stuff. But that one was nerfed at least. The Riovind's Veil apparently grants like a bit less ward than before, but it has still the same DR, so this is actually still like very, very strong as well. Wait, no, it's not Riovind's Veil, it's like Riovind's Protection. It's like a invocation, right? Where the fuck is that? Invocation, Runic Invocation here, right? Yeah, Riovind's Frostguard it's called, right? This one right here grants you like a bit less ward, I think, than before, but it still has like the same DR as well, it's the same damage reduction on it, so it's still like a very, very strong skill as well. So overall, I personally would have like loved to see some more of these balance changes, but then again, they probably didn't want to like nerf all too much before release, because people have been like looking up guides for 0.9 a lot right now, and they don't want to like be in one of those like Diablo 4 situations where like people are giga upset because of the big nerf that like comes post-release. But yeah, on the other hand, they could have also like done a bit more stuff, in my opinion, when it comes to like Sentinel, right? Like Forge Guard is a very much underplayed class, as you all know, and this is literally the only line to the entire Sentinel class. This is base Sentinel. There's nothing for Paladin, nothing for Void Knight, and more importantly, nothing for Forge Guard. I mean, I assume there's going to be like a big Forge Guard rework on like a patch 1.1 or patch 1.2 maybe, which will actually like give the class some proper identity besides like being something like Rebuke plus Manifest Armor, which you can also run on the Paladin. So yeah, I mean, that's like the one thing where I'm like a bit salty about sometimes still, and I know I've been also getting like critiques that I'm like too salty about this game, like not enough like too much negativity, not enough positivity, right? I am giga hyped about this patch, and one thing that I have to say is that the new 3 skills that are coming as well to the game that are not from the new masteries, like let's take a look at them in Last Epoch tools: Gathering Storm, Healing Hands, and the Tempest Strike. Especially Gathering Storms and Healing Hands look really, really cool. The skill trees are really well made, in my opinion. They offer like tons of stuff that you can do. For example, if you look at Healing Hands, let's go to Paladin real quick, right? There's synergy for like electrify hit stuff. I mean, like basically like you have like attack speed based or casting speed based like hits that apply electrify dots. You can make this a melee attack. You can give it like damage as a spell. You can use it as a support skill only with like ward stuff, like low life support as well. You can like proc it off your melee attacks. You can proc it off your smites. You can give it like more damage here. You can actually like make it into like a proper AoE damage thing. You have like spell damage per healing effectiveness. You have less mana cost, you have area gain, you have multiplayer synergy, like double healing effectiveness if there's like a dead player nearby, right? So there's like tons of stuff, right? Heal party members to full. There's so many things you can like spec into. You can even make it like a movement ability, right, with Raya's Chariot, right? Then this is like a shield charge kind of ability. So I love healing hands. I mean, maybe not all the nodes are like perfectly balanced, but honestly, at this point, we all know that like Ellie has some balance problems here and there, and that's like one thing you could like talk about a lot, but I don't want to like talk about it anymore that much, honestly. Let's just focus on the good stuff, right? Let's focus on like the build creativity that you can have here. Whether or not your actual result is going to be like an S tier build or not doesn't really matter too much. The game has like so much to offer, so much to like try out. Please just try out skills and feel free to like play whatever you want, like when it comes to the theme, because more often than not, at least until empowered monoliths, it's going to work perfectly fine. You're going to have like a lot of fun with it. If you can like push 5,000 corruption in the end, I mean, honestly, like, who cares, right? As long as you kind of clear like the campaign and like get to 100 and maybe like clear like baseline empowered like 100 corruption monoliths, that's totally fine. And I mean, there's like tons of gear that is also new in the game now. There's many like new gear bases which are very interesting. There's some power creep here again as well, yes, but honestly, like some of these classes maybe also like needed some of the power creep, and there's some armor mitigation applying to damage over time and stuff like that, making like some otherwise only armor stacking classes that had like trouble with damage over time, getting like better defenses here, right? So there's like new means of defense for classes that didn't have like proper means of defense before. Let me actually like check out the Shaman as well real quick, show you the Gathering Storm, right? Gathering Storm is a skill that also like supports the sub-skill Storm Bolts, which has been replacing all the Lightning Bolts from like other procs that you had before. So if you like spec into like Storm Bolt stuff here, this would also affect like all your other Storm Bolts like cast by other skills. You have like Maelstrom synergy, you have like Tornado synergy and Tempest Strike as well, right? There's like so many things, like these skill trees are still like the game's forte in my opinion, and there's so much you can try out here. As I said, like not everything is perfectly balanced, but just like being able to like combine things in like so many crazy ways make this game like so interesting in my opinion. And like theory crafting in this game is so interesting, and even if like something looks pretty cool on paper, it might be like totally different in the actual game. That's just tons of fun. Anyway, this should be a TLDR and not a still too long video. So yeah, there's like new items, new uniques, look all pretty cool. New base items, some power creep there, but also like pretty cool items for sure. Some new affixes, of course, corresponding to new like classes and some of the new skills. Really nice. And then enemy adjustments. I mean, yeah, like ranged enemies are more dynamic now in their behavior basically, right? Because they reposition more often. Enemies have like 2% more HP and 1% more damage all across the board. The game is like 1% harder. I mean, it's not really like a much, but it is what it is. And then enemy health and damage has been globally increased by 5% to level 80 and by 25% at level 100, as I said before. And then there is a bunch of new enemies for chapter 3, 4, 5, and also some for 6. This means that in those chapters you will have to be especially careful now, because as we all know, maybe from like patches from the past for last Epoch, that everything that's new in this game is usually generally more scary and stronger than things that have been there in the past or that have been like rebalanced. So expect like some of the things that have been harder in like 0.9 to be a bit easier now, and expect like the new things in chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, which before had like kind of meme enemies that didn't really like do anything, to be a lot harder now. So there is gonna be some ripping stuff in here in chapter 4, 5, 6. Also, one last thing that I want to like say here is that if you have been also following my stream like the last couple of days or weeks, you've noticed that I've like talked about like 3 different ways to like approach the leveling phase. And if you are new to this game, I would always suggest you to just play through the campaign, Act 1 to 9. In Act 9, you can choose your faction, right, Merchant's Guild or Circle of Fortune. And then there are 2 other ways, and then after that you go on to Monolith, right? And then there are 2 other ways you can also level. Number 1 is doing Act 1 to 7 only, Chapter 1 to 7, and do all the side quests there, and then you will unlock all passive points and all idle slots, which make you usually powerful enough to go into Monolith right away. And then there is the one way that is the like fastest to level, however also the hardest and scariest and rippiest way to level, and that is going from Chapter 1 to 5, then going to Monolith, and then running Monolith until you will either get to Empowered or like until you get a Temporal Sanctum key, and then you run Temporal Sanctum, and then you skip Act 5 to 9, you skip Chapter 6, 7, and 8, and then you run Chapter 9, you do the remaining side quests there to get the remaining skill points, like passive points and idle slots, and you defeat the boss there to get +1 to all attributes. And doing that, you skip tons of, like, you save tons of time if you can survive doing that process. However, this means you go to Monolith at around like level 30 to 35 maybe even lower, depends on like how zoomy you are playing, right? And the new level 58 Monolith in patch 1.0 is gonna be definitely harder than before because there's higher density and there's some new mob types in there that are gonna be rippier than before. Also, you don't get as much bonus XP anymore as you used to. They nerfed the bonus XP when you are low level, so it will stay rippier for an extended period of time, because before, right, you had to like only like run a couple of monos, like a couple of echoes in the Monolith in the first one, and then you would like catch up with levels very, very quickly. And now that is no longer the case, so you will still level faster in the Monolith, and it will still be the fastest way to level, but it's going to be a lot harder than before. So when you do the jump from from Chapter 5 to the first Monolith, make sure that you don't die. You need to like basically try to craft the best gear that you have at that moment to not rip in the Monolith. And then when you get through the normal Monoliths and you get to Empowered Monolith, this will also be faster for you than before, because the Monoliths in non-empowered corruption will now require less stability to complete. You basically like build up stability in Monoliths when you do echoes, right? And when you have max stability, you are able to defeat the boss, and if you defeat the boss, you can move on to the next Monolith, right? So since that is happening, you will get to Empowered Monoliths sooner, and because you are at Empowered Monoliths sooner, you will be lower level, and Empowered Monoliths are level 100 content, and level 100 content has 25% more HP and more damage, and also 100 corruption as a baseline, and 100 corruption baseline is 60% more damage, it's at 50% more damage now. So overall, enemies would have like roughly 35-ish% more damage than before when you get to Empowered Monoliths, and you will be roughly like maybe like 5 to 10 levels lower than before if you rush there in the same way as you did before. So you might have to like, you know, maybe even like farm a bit like levels in non-empowered Monoliths before going there right away, because otherwise you might just die. However, there's one really, really cool thing about Monoliths as well that has been changed, is that before, maybe I should like boot up the game here to like show you actually in game. So in patch 0.9, once you got to either the boss echo or the quest echo before the boss echo, you had to choose, do you want to proceed on the right or on the left, or like here, up here, or up here, or here, like over here or here and stuff like that. So you have to like always like choose where you want to proceed in the Monoliths. And now, if you complete a Monolith, you will always unlock all the ways that you can go from that Monolith. So no more choosing, and no more like getting punished for misclicking in the dialogue options. Now you will have everything basically unlocked in a very smooth way automatically when you just like run the monos normally. And that's also a good way for you to, you know, have choices. Like say for example you're running 75, right? And after 75 you're unlocking 80 and 85. And then you're running 85, but because of like new level, like the new changes to like XP gain and the new changes of like density and so on, 85 is like too hard for you for some reason. So then you can like go over to 80 and like do 80 instead first, right? So that's another way of doing stuff now. And like you can like farm stuff here instead of like farm stuff here. It's pretty nice. So yeah, overall, I think it's a great patch. It has tons of content. It is a patch worthy of 1.0 in my opinion, like especially when it comes to like all the visual overhauls. The game looks amazing now and has like so much new content that you can check out. Especially when it comes to like early to mid game, and especially when it comes to like trying out new builds, it is an amazing patch in my opinion. When it comes to, well, Forge Guard and like maybe some of the like end game stuff besides Monolith, maybe you could have like expected more, but honestly I didn't actually expect that much more, because I know like what the developers are focusing on right now for 1.0, and that's totally fine to me. The game has come a very, very, very long time, like a very long way since like the first time I've played this game like 4 or 5 years ago when I bought this game for the first time, and it has been an amazing journey honestly. yes, there were like some delays because of like multiplayer and so on, but I think for the overall like future of the game, those changes were very much necessary. And also it's very much understandable that like basically porting the entire game from like offline to online, like a server-based client system is it's an insane amount of like work that you have to do. So yeah, that's totally fine. To me personally, like for me personally, to like wait for that long, it's totally fine. And like I mean, the game is gonna get like much more content in the future too, right? Like there is still like 3 more patches coming, like 3 more chapters rather coming in the future with like more patches, and it's gonna be like more than just 3 patches. It's gonna be like thousands of patches probably. We'll see, I don't know, but it's gonna be like tons of content for this game, because I think the game generally is in a good spot right now. And it will be tons of fun, and like it's gonna be like so many things you can try out compared to like any Diablo game. It's absolutely insane what you can try out and how much value you get out of your like $35 in this game. So yeah, it's gonna be like a lot of fun playing this game the next couple of weeks. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this a bit shorter of a TL. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this a little bit of a shorter patch rundown video. And yeah, I hope to see you around tomorrow. I also have some builds still crafted for 1.0 for the race that I want to participate in probably. With the race, it's a bit, well, it's a double-edged sword in my opinion, because like on the one hand I would rather want to just like try out whatever I want to like try out. On the other hand, for a race you should also like play a, you know, S tier build and not do all too much when it comes to experimenting. We'll see though what I actually play for 1.0 on the first day. But if I want to race, then I have to play something that's strong and also like proven to be strong in a way. And then maybe like after the race, we like try out like all the new and funky stuff, like Gathering Storm Shaman or like a Healing Hands Paladin and so on. It's gonna be tons of fun.